Hi, we're Maren and Angela of Homeschool Unrefined. Over the past 25 years, we've been friends, teachers, homeschool parents, and podcasters together. With our master's degree and 20 years combined homeschooling, we're here to rethink homeschooling, learning, and education with an inclusive and authentic lens.
At Homeschool Unrefined, we prioritize things like giving yourselves credit, building strong connections, respectful parenting, interest-led playing and learning differences, mental health, self-care, and listening to and elevating LGBTQ+ and BIPOC voices.
We are here to encourage and support you, whether you're a new homeschooler, a veteran, you love curriculum, you're an unschooler, whether all your kids are at home or all your kids are in school or somewhere in between. Wherever you are on your journey, we're the voice in your head telling you you're doing great, and so are your kids.
This is episode 199, Quirky Kids. We're going to talk all about quirky kids and why that's a good thing and how to foster it. And then we are going to end like we always do with our LTWs, loving this week.
All right, everyone. We wanted to give a big announcement. We have unlocked our Patreon class series, What We Don't Do, and we're so excited about it. So this is just for our Patreon Super Squad members. We do monthly live classes, and our new class series is called What We Don't Do. The first class is Sitting Long for Lessons, and we just finished that class and it was really wonderful. If you join our Patreon Super Squad today, you're going to get that class immediately. It's available. It was live and you'll get it immediately, and then you'll continue to get one live class per month and the recording of that class.
Yes. And the next class after that is about winter break, which we know everybody will be thinking of probably in December.
Important. Yes, definitely.
If you've listened to our podcast, you know we are passionate about outsourcing in homeschool. Outschool has been one of our favorite ways to outsource. We know that kids who love to learn don't just prepare for the future, they create it. That's why Outschool has reimagined online learning to empower kids and teens to expand their creativity, wonder, and knowledge. Empathetic, passionate teachers encourage learners ages 3 to 18 to explore their interests, connect with diverse peers from around the world, and take an active role in leading their learning. Outschool has created a world filled with endless possibilities for every schooling journey. Explore over 140,000 fun and flexible live online classes to find the right fit for your family and join us as we set learning free. Sign up today at outschooler.me/homeschoolunrefined and get up to $20 off your first class when you enroll with the code UNREFINED.
Angela and I both love creative ways to teach reading and writing, and that's why we're excited to introduce you to Night Zookeeper. Is your child a reluctant writer? Do they struggle with reading? If your answer to either of these questions is yes, then Night Zookeeper may be just what you're looking for. Night Zookeeper is an online learning program for children ages 6 to 12 that uses a gamified and creative approach to help to keep kids engaged and focused on developing awesome reading and writing skills, all while having fun at the same time. Some of the features we love include the educational games, the personalized feedback on writing from real tutors, and the super safe community page, where children can work with each other and learn together. If Night Zookeeper sounds like the perfect learning program for your child, you can try it for free by clicking on the link in the show notes. When you register, you'll get a 7-day risk-free trial, as well as a huge 50% off annual subscription. That's a great deal if you ask me.
If you've been around a while, you know we are picky about curriculum, and that's why we are excited to partner with Blossom and Root. Blossom and Root is a nature-focused, secular homeschool curriculum. Focusing on creativity, science, nature, literature, and the arts, Blossom and Root has been gently encouraging and supporting homeschool families around the globe since 2016. Blossom and Root currently offers curricula for pre-K through 5th grade, with new levels being added in the future. Additionally, a 3-volume inclusive U.S. history curriculum told from a variety of viewpoints is currently in development. As of August 2022, Volume 1 is available for purchase and Volume 2 is available on pre-sale. All profits from this history curriculum, A River of Voices, will be used to support storytellers and artists from historically excluded communities. You can find samples, scope and sequences, and information about each of their levels online at blossomandroot.com. You can also find them on Instagram at blossomandroot. Blossom and Root has created a special discount for our listeners. Use the code HSUnrefined15 at checkout for 15% off your purchase.
All right, Angela, let's dive into our main topic today, which is quirky kids.
Yeah, excited to talk about this.
Very excited because I think you and I agree. Having quirky kids is one of the greatest things that could come out of homeschool. What do you think?
Yes, for sure.
We love having quirky kids. I think they're a gift to the world, and it feels like, you're really getting authenticity
for sure
when you see the quirkiness come out of kids and people in general.
Yes, for sure.
Right?
Yeah, let's talk about what quirky kids are, because I feel like this is a word that maybe gets thrown out a lot and people have different definitions.
Right.
But what we're talking about when we talk about quirky kids is kids who follow their interests and are confident in what they love.
Yeah, and they're really just, like you said, confident and really just okay being themselves, like happy to be who they are, accepting of other people too. I think it just kind of goes along with that as well.
For sure. Yeah, and they're not much paying attention to, necessarily what other people are saying. They've got the freedom to follow their interests because they're homeschooling, and they've got the freedom to just be genuine and authentically who they are. And I just think that is a real gift that comes out of homeschooling. I mean, obviously there are quirky kids who go to traditional school as well.
Right.
And I think that's great too. But I think in homeschool, your quirkiness can really shine.
I think
in
it's
a way
safe.
that it can't.
Yes.
In public school.
Yes. Yeah. It's safe at home. I mean, it's safe to do it. I think there is it feels a little bit unsafe when you're around people who maybe aren't as accepting.
Right.
Of those
or
things.
You're afraid might judge you for your unique interests.
Exactly. Yes. And yeah, so we love that our kids show their quirky side, and it could be maybe they're like super interested in something that they show it off to everyone, or they just get into it, And I think it's just like an unapologetic love for whatever. I think that's so great. And this can encompass, I think, neurodivergent and neurotypical kids. I think sometimes there's this label that it's maybe there's neurodivergence, and I don't think that's always the case, and I think a lot of times it's not.
It can be. It I mean, I think a lot of neurodivergent kids are quirky,
for sure,
but then so are a lot of neurotypical kids.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we're talking about all kids.
For sure. So why do you think, Maren, that it's good to have quirky kids, especially when they're younger?
Okay, let's start with when they're younger, because I think kids get into the habit when they're younger. They get into the habit of being themselves. It normalizes being unique. It celebrates being unique. Being different and having different interests than your friends is the norm. It's just it's life. And I think once you get into that habit and that's your reality when you're a kid, then growing up, it feels a little off if it's not like that. And so I like that our kids grow up expecting that everybody's going to be different and unique. And I think it creates an acceptance of a variety, not just quirkiness, but I mean, any kind of difference, diversity of any sort. Like there is just like this understanding that we are all different and we appreciate differences. And I really like that.
I love that too. I think it's joyful to see kids when they are young and old, but we're talking about young kids being into what they're really into. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know that I've seen my own kids and other kids excitedly tell me about the thing that they're into, or excitedly tell whoever is willing to listen about the thing that they are into. And that is so special at a young age, and something that sometimes gets squashed as kids get older. But you're right. If we can normalize it and expect it. Then if they aren't doing that, maybe it will feel off to them.
I also think, yes, like you said, it's brings this joy. It spreads this joy. And that is like this love of learning. I would call it learning. It's living, and it's contagious, I think. I think it's contagious. So when kids are quirky, they're just really in their zone or whatever, and they're spreading this joy. It's just, that is priceless. And I don't know, just having that experience is so powerful. It's so powerful. It's so good for us. It's good for us as adults to be influenced by that.
Oh, yes, for sure. Because that is, well, I'll just speak for myself.
I
mean, that has been, what's the word? Like kind of drummed out of me as I age, right?
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
I mean, so like, at least when I was a kid, there were a few categories of things that were acceptable to be interested in, or that were presented as possible interests,
Right.
Not that it was even acceptable or not, but that just like I knew about that you could be interested in. And so I don't know that I've really developed my quirkiness.
Yeah.
Until I've gotten older.
Yep.
Really. And like been okay with that. Been okay with whatever it is.
Yep.
Instead
So true.
of calling things weird or different or guilty pleasures or whatever. I don't know. But just like accepting of what things you're really into.
Well, I think there is a point too, even now, like we know this. We know being, having this quirkiness is so good, and and we love the uniqueness. But I think even today, like there is a cute quirkiness when kids are little, and then at some point we start to not get excited about their quirkiness. Now we need to like, let's be done with all the whatever, rein it in. And now you have to like kind of get in line a little bit. So why do you think why is it good for older kids to also have this quirkiness?
Well, okay. I think because then they are, first of all, being themselves. I mean, that is so important that everybody feels comfortable being themselves, right?
Yes.
Liking what you like, knowing what you're interested in. I think just knowing the things that are exciting to you, knowing that when you're older, like let's say a teen, I think is priceless. I think that's priceless, because otherwise, I just think it makes you more confident. I think it makes you know more about, and I hate to always make this the end goal, but like what you want to do in the future. And that's not the end goal, but like what kind of job might be interesting to you? I think it's easier. What kind of things do I want to study? Do I want to take classes about a certain thing? I think it's easier to be confident and know what those things are.
Yes.
Instead of being more lost.
Well, I wouldn't even say it, Angela. I don't think it's necessarily an end goal. I think what you're saying is just like, we do spend a lot of time at our jobs, when we're an adult.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And it would be great to hone in on something that is really in line with your values and your interests and your skills and your experiences and things like that. And it might not be permanent. We know that many people switch jobs and careers throughout their lives. So it's not necessarily an end thing, but it is like there's certainly a commitment level, to jobs. And so I think it's, we know how much, our jobs have influenced us and, affected us. Sure. And so it's so good to know, to even get closer to something that you want to do. Oh, it's so good. So just to have that self-knowledge and awareness is so key.
Right. And I think what I meant by the not making it the end goal is just that, like, I know so many well-meaning adults put pressure on kids from the time that they're little, and asking them like, what do you want to do when you grow up? Like,
what do you want to do with your life? From kindergarten. Yes. What do you want to do as a job?
Right. So I guess that's what I meant. But you're right. I know it is important because your job is a lot of your life when you're older. So
I mean, and when you're a teen, you really are thinking about that. It's not
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
not like a far off thing like from when you were in preschool or
Mhm,
it's
mhm.
like, no, I mean, this is in a few years. I got to think
Yeah.
about this. I should be thinking and planning, right? But I also think it affects your whole life in that way too. It's like you get to kind of curate this life that works best for you too.
Mhm.
It's not
Yeah.
even just doing what you like, but like having the habits that work best for the way your brain works. It's all
Mm,
so good. And I think that
knowing the way that you learn.
knowing the way that you learn, knowing
Yeah.
the way you organize, knowing the way that you need to set up your I don't know, set up your kitchen. They're just
Yeah. Or
things
just
like
set
that
up your life. Yeah.
set up your life. Friends, these are the type of friends that, help me thrive in my life.
Mhm,
These
mhm.
are some of the things that I just, need to have in place. Those are all things that like I think help when you are fostering this, quirkiness in your
For sure.
kids.
For
So
sure.
for sure. Yeah.
I also think definitely, in the teen years,
Mhm.
friends are important, peers are important. And
Yes.
I just think if your child is comfortable with themselves and with their unique interests and who they
Mhm.
are, I think that
Mhm.
has such a positive effect on the other kids around them. Because when
Absolutely.
you see somebody being themselves, it is so inspiring.
Yeah.
It's to me, for sure. Like I see somebody into something cool that I hadn't, thought about before, or just being unapologetically themselves. I feel
Yes.
so inspired to do that myself.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So I
Yep.
think that's really, really key.
And to find friends who accept each other for their
Yeah,
quirkiness.
right.
That's so key too. And that like kind of goes back that we talked about how important it is, it's how great it is that our kids are, so unique and quirky when they're young, so that when they're older, they're like, hey, like if there is a friendship that's happening and there isn't that acceptance or something's off, then they feel that they're like, this doesn't feel right because
Mhm.
I'm just, I am this person. If you don't like it, then there's something you're not
Yeah.
accepting about me or whatever. And there can be dialogue about that, but it's good to understand.
Mhm.
Yeah. So,
So,
okay.
how do you think we should foster quirkiness in kids?
This is such a big question.
Yeah. I want to say first off, I think if you're homeschooling, if you're listening to this and you're homeschooling, I think you're already probably doing it. I
Right.
mean, I think homeschooling in and of itself is helpful in that way
Mm.
because everything is kind of personalized and you
Mm.
already probably are, gearing things towards their interests and they probably have
Gearing
time for their
things.
interests.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
They have
Mm-hmm.
time for the things that they're interested in.
Yep.
And so I think you're probably already doing it.
Yes. Yes, that is
But
so true.
yeah.
I was just gonna say, I think that's the biggest thing that contributed, for my kids is just time to be
Mm,
themselves, time to play the way they wanted to play, and just grow their pretend world, and
yeah.
without constraint for
Yeah. I
so
hadn't thought
long.
about that, but time.
Mhm.
Time.
Mhm.
You're
Mhm.
right, because kids, when they're in school, are so busy. They are so busy with school,
Yeah.
during the day and homework, and then fitting in other activities and family time and sleep and homework.
Yes.
It's just,
Yes.
it's hard to really develop your interests when you're in
And it's
school.
yes, and it's not just a practical thing. It's not just the time, but the time is communicating, I think, to the kids.
Mhm.
The most important thing for you to do is to do the things that the adults are telling you to do all day long, or whatever. That's the
Yeah.
important thing. Prioritize that.
Yeah.
Don't prioritize your own interests and who you are as a person. And I
Hmm.
think that
Hmm.
that is a mistake.
Yeah.
We need to communicate with our time,
Hmm.
our priorities.
Yes.
And so for our priorities, for me, my priorities for our kids was to be themselves, be creative, and
Hmm.
love learning,
Hmm.
enjoy the way they love learning, and be
Hmm.
curious and just go down rabbit holes. And they did that. They did
Yeah.
that. And it was
Yeah.
so good. I will say, when my kids were younger and they were doing that, I, of course, had a wrestling match in my head every day. Like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, we're not getting to all these other
Yeah.
things.
We should be doing math. We should be doing
Yes,
reading or whatever. Yes. We tell
every
ourselves these things.
single day. every single day. I remember honestly, like standing in the middle of my living room, looking around at just the chaos around me going, I'm never going to be able to wrangle this in.
Yeah.
And then also thinking like, why do I think I need to? And so I don't know, now looking
wrestling
back,
with that daily.
right. Yes. And so looking back, I'm just so glad that a lot of the time I opened the space up for that. Space and time for that.
Right. So it's mostly encouraging those things that they're interested in instead of, diminishing them or whatever, instead of suggesting other things, instead of prioritizing other things, really encouraging those things that they're interested in, whatever that is.
Yep. And then the other thing I think that's really important is to just own our own quirkiness. Like you said, Angela, you're learning about your own quirkiness right now and like kind of growing into that. And I think that that's so good for our kids to see too.
It is, definitely.
We have a unique set of interests and skills.
Right. And sharing that with your kids and sharing your own journey in that way.
Yeah.
And I think is really, really important because, most things are about modeling. And it like I said, because I'm I feel like late to the game in this way. I mean, I've definitely always had interest, but some things I felt embarrassed about or kind of squashed, or like I don't actually, mostly it was like I didn't feel like I had a wide variety of things to pick from for interest. It's like, well, do you want to do a sport or music or both?
right. And there was a limited amount of those. Of both. Yeah. So it was either like, volleyball, basketball, or softball.
Yeah.
For me, which of those three?
Yeah. So I think learning about the world and just like how many options there are and like testing things out. And for me, that's like a lifelong practice. And the sooner my kids can get started on that and finding their own joys, I just think the better off they're going to be. And so I really do want to encourage and model that for them.
For sure. And even if our kids do choose a very maybe traditional career, I think that's great.
Yeah.
And they will, I think, value interests outside of their job too, which is just so healthy. And, having a way to balance your life out.
Having a full life that's more than just your job, but you also have other.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And you're right. Like you said, example is so powerful. Just watching your parents have those quirky interests is probably more powerful than anything else. So what's your quirky thing? I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of figuring that myself out too. I mean, I have a lot of interest. I love doing a lot of different things, but like recently, I think I talked about this on Patreon, maybe not on the main podcast, but in our Facebook, Buy Nothing group, there was a free organ. Yeah. Somebody was giving away a free organ and I took it.
Yeah.
Right away. That's quirky.
It's amazing. That is quirky.
I didn't think about it at the time, but I was like, oh, that was okay. I look back and I'm like, yeah, that was pretty quirky. So because I love the organ.
Have you been playing it?
Yeah, a little bit. And we're, the kids are enjoying it a lot for sure.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. All right. Let's move on to our LTWs. Loving this week.
Yes.
Yeah. Myron, what are you loving?
Okay. I am loving, it's a podcast that I listen to all the time. This American Life. Which I know I talk about. I've shared several episodes with you, Angela, lately, but this last one,
okay, let's hear it.
Everybody needs to listen. It's number 783, Kids These Days is what it's called. Okay. And the description says, we hear from kids who are dealing with some of the country's most contentious debates, debates that are supposedly about them. So it's just these kids who are caught in, adult turmoil.
For sure. Yeah.
Basically. And I know you all probably, if you're listening to this podcast, have a heart for kids and are thinking about just the things that kids are dealing with these days. And these are just personal stories about those things. And everybody needs to listen to it.
Okay. I would love to listen to that. I'm going to put that on my list and my queue. I'm going to put it in my queue.
Yep. Put in your queue. You will appreciate it. Definitely.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
This American Life has been around for years before they had
Yes.
podcast apps, and that's why they're on episode like 700 and something.
Yeah, that's right.
It was like the
That's
first
right.
podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really well done. So
It's really well done. And I think it's becoming a much more inclusive podcast. Like the
Oh,
stories that they're sharing.
okay.
I'm just really appreciating that. I'm noticing it more
That's
and
good.
more.
Yeah.
Yes. From the lens of many, many different people in the world or
great.
in America.
That's great. That's great.
All right, Angela, what are you loving this week?
Okay, I am loving a book that this could be the book. Like if you are in a slump, if you don't know if you like audiobooks,
Okay.
or you've never tried or wonder if you could get hooked, I think this could be your book. It's called I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy.
Okay, yes, I've heard of this book.
You've heard of this book?
Yes.
Okay. So this is a memoir, but it'll take you in right away. So Jeanette McCurdy is a young actress. She's probably 30 now.
Okay.
She was on iCarly
yes.
on Nickelodeon as a young child. And this is just her life story, which is pretty traumatic. She didn't want to go into acting, but her mom wanted her to because it was her mom's dream that her mom never got fulfilled for herself. So her mom pushed her into acting, and Jeanette wanted to please her mother because she loves her mother. And it is about their relationship, and it is about her, life in the spotlight and with her mother and with her brothers. And her mom is sick the whole time. I mean, it's in the title. I'm glad my mom died. So her mom dies, but her mom is sick. Yeah, no spoiler. Yep. Her mom is sick, for much of her childhood. And so there's always kind of the threat of like, is her mom going to die? And so she wants to really please her mom. So anyways, it is so well written.
Wow.
It is so well written. The audio is amazing. She reads it by the first sentence, or the first story. I was hooked. I was like, I need to keep listening to this. So I think, as a parent too, it definitely is just a cautionary tale, it's a cautionary tale as a parent. Not that I'm like her mom, but I just recognize just some behaviors or practices, and I am constantly thinking like, oh, I do not want to do that, or I would never want to say that, or whatever. So I don't know. I just think as a parent, it was really, it was important. As a child, it was important. It's important for everybody. So
yes,
really well done.
Okay.
I think you should listen. I think you should just get it on Libro FM, which I talked about a few weeks ago. It's or the library. Get it on your library, but listen on audio for sure.
All right. Thank you, Angela. And thank you to our 3 sponsors, Blossom and Root, OutSchool, and Night Zookeeper. Be sure to check out their links in our show notes.
This podcast is created and hosted by Angela Sizer and Maren Gorse. We are listener supported. To get extra content and the Back to School Summit free with your membership, go to patreon.com/homeschoolunrefined. Subscribe to our newsletter and get our free top 100 inclusive book list at homeschoolunrefined.com/newsletter. You can find Maren on Instagram at unrefinedmaren and at Always Learning with Maren. You can find Angela at unrefinedangela.